All right, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're pulling off something pretty ambitious. We are taking 15 major world-shifting global stories from May 31st, 2026, and distilling the whole shebang into one seamless, structured journey. If you want to understand the forces actively reshaping our world right now, without wading through hours and hours of noise, well, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to connect the dots across continents, looking at the data, the reports, and the direct source material to give you the absolute clearest picture possible. So, here's our roadmap for today's Explainer. We'll start heavy with geopolitics and global conflicts, transition smoothly into technology and economy, check in on weather and nature, and finally, we'll wrap things up with culture and sports.
Section 1. Geopolitics and Global Conflicts. Global Security and Regional Updates.
So how fragile is global peace today? It's the big, central question driving the highly delicate, honestly incredibly complex situation unfolding in the Middle East right now. As we speak, a tentative 60-day truce is basically hanging by a thread, and you can feel the ripples of that fragility all the way up to the highest levels of global leadership.
Now, you might be wondering how these two discrete events are directly linked. It's like a giant geopolitical puzzle. On one hand, you have massive external pressure. A tentative peace pact has hit a serious roadblock because U.S. President Donald Trump is demanding strict, last-minute amendments to the draft Memorandum of Understanding. Specifically, he wants much tighter, totally verifiable timelines on exactly how and when Iran surrenders its highly enriched uranium stockpile. And he's also questioning the unfreezing of billions in Iranian funds. But on the other hand, those exact external U.S. demands are creating immense internal fracturing over in Tehran. Anti-regime media outlets are actually reporting rumors that Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has submitted a formal resignation letter to Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei. Why? Basically because of fierce friction with hardline factions in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, who were pushing hard to reject this as a bad deal. Now, Iranian state media has issued blanket denials of this resignation, sure, but intelligence analysts are tracking severe structural fracturing within the government.
And while that diplomatic standoff plays out at the top, the reality on the ground remains incredibly grim. Hostilities persist across the region. Israeli ground troops have actually advanced deep past the original nominal April 17th truce line. Following heavy airstrikes and artillery barrages targeting suspected Hezbollah strongholds, Israeli forces have successfully captured the medieval Beaufort Castle in Lebanon's Nabatea Governorate. And, tragically, the human cost continues to mount as operations proceed. An Israeli airstrike recently hit a local cafe in Gaza City, killing at least 2 Palestinian civilians and wounding several others.
Okay, let's shift gears to another theater of conflict and see how this builds. 50 to 90. I want you to keep that number in mind. That represents the depth in kilometers behind the front lines that the Ukrainian 3rd Army Corps has managed to strike. They've achieved total drone-enabled fire control over key Russian ground lines of communication stretching 50 to 90 kilometers deep. I mean, this isn't just a random number. It literally represents a shattering of Russian logistics.
To put that number into perspective, let's look at exactly where these precision strikes hit. They targeted critical armor and ammunition depots across occupied Luhansk, Starbilsk, Alchevsk, and Bryanka. By hitting these specific targets that far back, 50 to 90 kilometers, Ukrainian forces are heavily inhibiting Russian logistical operations from supplying the front line.
Now, what's absolutely fascinating here is the specific use of the phrase neo-militarism. This perfectly illustrates the diplomatic tension currently flaring up in the Indo-Pacific. Over at the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore, Beijing levied some really sharp criticisms against Tokyo, labeling Japan's recent defense buildup as a dangerous shift toward neo-militarism. But Japanese Defense Minister Shinjiro Koizumi strongly defended their security expansions. He explicitly rejected Beijing's label on the global stage, vowing instead to double down on Indo-Pacific maritime alliances. It is a stark reminder of just how fast security postures in Asia are shifting. Section 2. Technology and Economy. Digital breaches and economic initiatives. All right, this is an absolutely fascinating David versus Goliath tech story out of India. Let's walk through this timeline together. Step 1. A massive vulnerability was sitting plainly on unprotected Amazon Web Servers, AWS, hosting India's Central Board of Secondary Education or CBSE, specifically their on-screen marking system for grading Class 12 exams. Step 2. Nisarga Adhikari, a 19-year-old ethical hacker, finds it and actually proves that student answer sheets were publicly accessible. Step 3. As you can imagine, this exposure sparks a massive national whistleblower scandal. And finally, step 4, the whole ordeal forces the Indian government into a stunning public U-turn, officially admitting to these widespread security gaps. It really highlights how massive institutional infrastructure can sometimes be brought to its knees by simple oversights discovered by a teenager.
Over in the U.S. economic sector, we're seeing a highly targeted effort to boost local infrastructure. The Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, the OCC, and the Treasury Department's Office of Tribal and Native Affairs have actually launched a joint 4-part initiative. It's a national webinar series specifically aimed at training tribal governments and Native-owned businesses on how to utilize regional participation loans and specialized tax credit financing to build housing. It's a key economic lever being pulled to build up tribal community infrastructure, showing a real shift toward empowering hyperlocal economies right from the federal level.
Section 3. Weather and Nature. Typhoons, Conservation, and Celestial Events.
First up, we need to talk about the urgent preparations underway in Japan. Typhoon Jongmi is advancing along the Pacific coast, and the Japan Meteorological Agency has issued some extremely urgent warnings. Forecasts are predicting catastrophic torrential rainfall and massive mudslide risks across both eastern and western Japan. The threat is severe enough that domestic airlines are not taking any chances at all. They've already preemptively canceled hundreds of flights. But amidst all that extreme weather, there is an incredible bright spot for the environment in Japan: 56. What's really interesting about this number is that it represents years. 56 long years. That is how long it has been since rare crested ibises last roamed free on Japan's main island of Honshu. But environmental officials just successfully released a flock of these natural treasure birds into the wild in central Japan. Seriously, it's a massive, hard-fought victory for global conservation efforts.
From the Earth up to the sky, skywatchers globally were just treated to something spectacular: a blue micromoon. Let me explain the science behind this because it's genuinely fantastic. So, a blue moon simply means it's the second full moon inside a single calendar month. But this specific lunar cycle coincided perfectly with the moon hitting its apogee. The apogee is the moon's absolute furthest point from Earth in its monthly orbit. Because it was so incredibly far away, it appeared smaller in our sky, qualifying it as the absolute smallest full micromoon of 2026.
And you know, if a rare blue micromoon wasn't enough, this specific celestial event perfectly framed a converging visual alignment of the planets Venus and Jupiter in the night sky. It's one of those super rare moments where orbital mechanics creates a total visual masterpiece for us down here on Earth.
Section 4. Culture and Sports. End of eras, historic wins, and major injuries.
All right, 27. Let's speed up the tempo a bit here. 27 years is how long the iconic J-pop giants Arashi performed together. They just officially concluded their massive We Are Arashi farewell tour with a highly emotional, totally sold-out final concert at the Tokyo Dome, bowing out in front of hundreds of thousands of weeping fans. It really is the definitive end of a legendary era in music.
Keeping that rapid pace going. 2004. In the tennis world, this was the last time a Japanese player reached the round of 16 at the French Open. Well, that is until 4-time Grand Slam champion Naomi Osaka just completely shattered that milestone. In a grueling historic personal victory at Roland Garros, she defeated American Aniva Jojovic to punch her ticket to the 4th round.
Concluding our number chain today, 4-6. This is incredibly tough news for Major League Baseball fans out there. 4 to 6 weeks is the amount of time Chicago White Sox slugger Munetaka Murakami is expected to be sidelined. The Japanese star was officially placed on the 10-day injured list with a severe right hamstring strain, and this happened right in the middle of a phenomenal streak where he was literally leading the American League with 20 home runs.
And finally, in rugby, an absolute thriller over in Tokyo. Spears Tokyo Bay survived a fierce late-game comeback by the Saitama Wild Knights, barely edging them out in a super-tight 26-24 victory. This thrilling, totally down-to-the-wire semifinal match officially punches their ticket to the championship final, setting up a massive title bout against the Kobe Steelers.
And that brings us to the end of our global tour. I really want to leave you with this final thought. We have just traveled from high-stakes geopolitical tension in the Middle East and deep drone strikes in Eastern Europe, all the way to teenage hackers exposing national digital vulnerabilities, extreme weather, conservation victories, and historic sporting milestones. With the world shifting so rapidly across all these fronts simultaneously, what story will be the one that most radically reshapes our tomorrow? Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.